Something's happening. I'm not the Jedi I should be.
You have hate. I hate them. You have anger. I hate you. Anakin. No!
In their final breath, the last words of many major characters in the Star Wars story illustrate the lasting battle between good and evil.
You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Interestingly, however, there are certain characters whose last words both define and foreshadow the heartbreaking story of the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker, depicting his journey towards fear, anger, hate, suffering, and his ultimate redemption. George Lucas has previously remarked that the Star Wars story is all about Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader, and this became very clear to me too when analysing the final dying words of many of the key characters who knew Anakin Skywalker, and I was amazed at how many of these characters' last words guide Anakin on his path to the dark side.
The Jedi turned against me. Don't you turn against me?
And his eventual redemption as the Chosen One. Returning to where the story began, and beginning with Anakin's intended master and father figure, Qui-Gon Jinn. From the moment Qui-Gon met Anakin Skywalker, the Jedi Master sensed the young boy was different.
The Force is unusually strong with him. That much is clear. Who was his father?
There was no father.
Frustratingly for Qui-Gon, however, when Anakin was first introduced to the Jedi Council, they unanimously believed Anakin to be too young to be trained as a Jedi.
How feel you?
Cold, sir.
In addition, the Council believed Anakin's longing for his mother to be a potential trigger.
Your thoughts dwell on your mother.
I miss her.
Afraid to lose her, I think.
What has that got to do with anything?
Everything. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Ignoring their evaluation and perhaps misguided judgments, Qui-Gon believed Anakin to be the Chosen One, and that he must be trained in the ways of the Jedi.
He is the Chosen One. You must see it.
Clouded this boy's future is.
Now heading to the final moments of The Phantom Menace, the duel of Anakin's fates ends with Qui-Gon being killed by Darth Maul. Qui-Gon's final words to his then apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi would go on to establish the very beginnings of Anakin Skywalker's path towards fear.
He is the Chosen One. He will bring balance. Train him.
These final words set in motion Anakin's journey and lead us directly into the next significant stage of Anakin's story. As touched upon earlier, the Jedi Council feared Anakin's longing for his mother.
I sense much fear in you.
And that it could potentially lead Anakin to the dark side. The relevance of this judgment from the Council became increasingly more important, as without Qui-Gon Jinn, a fully trained Jedi Master and father figure, Anakin, like any youngling, would be susceptible to their inner fears. With the loss of Qui-Gon, this next character's final words usher in a reality that would see the Jedi Council's worst fears realised and put into place Anakin's first steps towards anger.
Now I am complete. I love.
Stay with me, Mom. Everything.
I love.
The loss of his mother left Anakin both heartbroken and lost. As the fear and hate stirred inside Anakin, those around him connected to the Force began to sense Anakin's feelings, and acknowledging them too.
Anakin! Anakin!
Which leads us perfectly on to the final words of Count Dooku and his assessment of Anakin.
Sense great fear in you, Skywalker. You have hate. You have anger. But you don't use them.
Anakin was now caught in a kind of trap. A trap that leads down a dark path.
Do it.
Every central character's final words to date were either efforts to provide Anakin with compassion, support, and love, or those around him sensed both the dark path Anakin was heading down and his frail state of mind. To one certain character, this situation suited their ultimate goal of ruling the galaxy. The single worst possible outcome for Anakin would have been to cross paths with Darth Sidious. Unfortunately for Anakin, having killed his former master, Darth Plagueis, Sidious kept a close eye on Anakin from the very beginning in search of a new apprentice, and the first words Darth Sidious muttered to Anakin foreshadow his downfall.
We are indebted to you for your bravery, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And you, young Skywalker. We will watch your career with great interest.
Now, years later, Sidious sensed Anakin's imbalance and strong connection to the Force. His patience paid off, and Sidious struck at the ideal moment.
He had such a knowledge of the dark side, he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying.
He could actually save people from death.
Dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
Anakin's false reliance on Sidious was now in place, and leads us perfectly onto our next character's final words. In desperation, Mace's final words at the end of a galaxy-defining battle are directed to Anakin, as he pleads with Anakin, trying to help him see through the lies of Darth Sidious and keep Anakin from being manipulated.
He has control of the Senate and the courts. He's too dangerous to be left alive.
Unfortunately, however, for Mace Windu and the galaxy, his efforts would be in vain. Anakin had been manipulated by Sidious beyond salvation, and by ignoring Mace's pleas, Anakin took his final steps towards the dark side and an existence of suffering for himself.
I need him. Please don't.
With one swing of his lightsaber, Anakin became the apprentice to Darth Sidious, a dark Force user. A lifetime of fear, hate, and anger had been realized, and an eternal life of suffering was just the beginning. Jedi Master Mace Windu was the last hope for Anakin Skywalker.
I pledge myself to your teachings.
Mace, like so many before him, failed to reach a broken Anakin.
Henceforth, you shall be known as Darth Vader.
And what follows is the collapse of the Jedi Order.
Execute Order 66. Execute Order 66. Execute Order 66.
And the rise of a new Sith apprentice. And this is where the final words of many characters fall silently to a twisted Anakin Skywalker.
Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. What are we going to do?
The war is over. Lord Sidious promised us peace. We only want...
At this stage in Anakin's journey, it had transpired that whatever someone's last words happened to be, whether this be compassion, love, lies, or manipulation, only Sidious really ever knew what Anakin craved, and how a few choice words
To save the one you love.
could twist Anakin into becoming Darth Vader. For all the power Sidious had, he was blind to one thing, however, and this would come back to haunt him later in the story. Someone else very close to Anakin, however, wasn't so blind, and knew Anakin enough to predict the final outcome of his journey. Those who had passed gave their last words to Anakin, in the hope he'd receive compassion and love. Others, however, had chosen their final words to speak of his pain, hate, and anger, and used this against him to try and manipulate him. A major turning point discussed earlier in this journey took place at the Opera House on Coruscant, where Sidious realised Padme's importance to Anakin.
He could actually save people from death.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
In this moment, he sensed a weakness in Anakin, an opportunistic moment to twist Anakin and have him believe anything. But while Sidious sensed fear, hate, and anger, Padme never stopped believing there was good in Anakin. In the final moments on Mustafar, Anakin's ties to the dark side blinded him, and this became apparent when he force-choked Padme.
You brought him here to kill me!
No!
In spite of Anakin's actions on Mustafar, similar to both Qui-Gon and Shmi, Padme's dying words are of compassion and love.
There's good in him. I know there's still.
The final words of many illustrate the pain within Anakin. The rise of the Empire is birthed from his pain, and both Darth Vader and Sidious now controlled the galaxy, to bend and twist its wheel to their favour. Fast forward many years later. The son of Anakin Skywalker was on his own journey to free the galaxy.
You are beaten. It is useless to resist. Don't let yourself be destroyed as Obi-Wan did.
And hopefully his father too. Luke, just like his mother, believed there to be good still residing in Darth Vader.
You couldn't bring yourself to kill me before, and I don't believe you'll destroy me now.
You underestimate the power of the dark side.
And remembering what Padme had said to Obi-Wan after giving birth to Luke and Leia,
There's good in him.
both Padme and Luke's beliefs would eventually converge. Importantly, it's the dying words of Padme that ring the truest, the actions of Luke that speak the loudest, and the final words of Darth Sidious,
Now, young Skywalker, you will die.
that spark the light within Anakin Skywalker. No one more so than Sidious had manipulated and controlled Anakin's narrative from a very young age.
They don't trust you, Anakin. They see your future. They know your power will be too strong to control.
But in the closing moments aboard the second Death Star, the final words of Darth Sidious came back to haunt him.
Young fool. Only now, at the end, do you understand?
Bringing about the return of compassion and love in Anakin, saving the life of his son Luke Skywalker, and finally ushering in the demise of Darth Sidious. From fear to anger, hate
The Jedi turned against me. Don't you turn against me?
and suffering, Anakin now entered his redemptive stage, the final stage of his life. For what must have felt like a lifetime of imprisonment was now over. Anakin was free of his pain. The compassion and love Qui-Gon, Shmi, Padme and Luke had sensed was always there. And for those who sensed the truth within Anakin spoke of this in their final breath. And now it was Anakin who realised this truth also, and spoke of this in his own words, his dying words.
You were right. You were right about me. Tell your sister. You were right.
Qui-Gon Jinn's passing and his final words established a path, which would eventually lead Anakin to the dark side. Shmi and her final words had tried to provide Anakin with a positive source from which to pull from, but her words and demise only brought about the story of his journey towards hate and anger. Dooku sensed this anger and hate in Anakin.
You have hate. You have anger.
But ultimately his final words
But you don't use them.
only empowered Anakin and led to Dooku's demise. Palpatine struck at the right moment.
Learn to know the dark side of the Force, and you will be able to save your wife from certain death.
Meaning Mace Windu's plea in his final words couldn't get through to Anakin either.
He must live! I need him! Please, don't! What have I done?
Many others in their final moments pleaded with Anakin, but it was too late. Anakin was walking the path many had tried to prevent. Padme knew Anakin like no one else, and she had always sensed the love and compassion in him, which years later brought about the end of Darth Sidious, when his final words,
"Now, young Skywalker, you will die,"
alongside the actions of Luke, turned Anakin back to the light. And the redemption of Anakin Skywalker was complete. Actions often speak louder than words, but the dying words of a few who knew Anakin best spoke of his compassion and love. And in the end, that is ultimately what spoke to Anakin Skywalker in the story of Star Wars. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to hit that notification bell for more from the channel, subscribe for more Star Wars adventures, and as always, may the Force be with you.